your spacious sky.
Melton. Here. Pauls. Here. Thompson. Here. Gurnett. Here. Gray. Here. Jerem. Here. Mr. President.
Please rise for the pledge and invocation by Councilmember Rich Paul.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. You know, this is a season of giving, and I'm also going to ask for those who give to also forgive. And let's enjoy this next few days and the rest of the year. Thank you.
City Clerk certifies publication of the data record on December 13th and notice for repeat council and regular city council meeting December 17th, 2013. Current copy of Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. This meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it's not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic device.
Zoning ordinance on final reading of planning board attachments will take items 5 through 8. It's one case. 5 is ordinance to rescind the planned unit development overlay district for the property located at 9515 West Center Road to rescind the development plan. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. 6 is ordinance to rezone property from R6 low-density multifamily residential district to R5 urban family residential district. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. 7 is resolution that the plat entitled Cottages of Oakdale are hereby approved. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. And 8 is a subdivision agreement is hereby approved.
Public hearings on items number 5 through 8 are today. Proponents, please. Mr. Slusky.
Jerry Slusky, 8712 West Dodge Road for the applicant. I think you're all familiar with this. It's a beautiful infill project. We worked hard with all the departments in the city to come to a resolution of the issues that make infill development difficult, and we're pleased that we think everybody's on board, and we'd appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Second. Roll call.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
They're all passed 7-0. We need a motion to suspend Rule 7E.
So moved.
Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
Resolution that City Council Resolution number 1456 dated November 19th is hereby rescinded. The corrected final plat transmitted herewith entitled Stevens Center located southwest 27th Q Street is hereby approved.
Public hearing on item number 9 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearings closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted.
Take the rules second.
9-0 or 7-0.
Roll call.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held December 24th and December 31st, 2013, agenda item number 10 through 12 shall be laid over 3 weeks to January 7, 2014 for publication public hearing. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, agenda items number 13 shall be laid over 3 weeks to January 7, 2014. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, agenda item number 14 shall be laid over 3 weeks to January 7th for publication public hearing. Liquor. Item number 15 is Perry's Place, 9652 Mockingbird Drive. Request permission for addition of their present Class C liquor license location to extend their existing beer garden. This was laid over. We have communications from P&I saying that all of the issues have been worked out.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 is today. Are there any proponents?
Chad Perry, 1005 North 107th Avenue. Here to answer any questions for additional beer garden.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Gray. Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
It's approved 7-0. Item number 16, Sereno's Billiard and Cafe, 1107 Park Avenue, Class C liquor license application, new location. We have one communications opposing.
Public hearing on item number 16 is today. Are there any proponents?
There they are.
Hello, Deanne Gutierrez, 1107 Park Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska.
Thank you.
I'm Sereno Canelia, 1107 Park Ave.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents? We have one here.
Sonia Gray, 1134 South 30th Avenue. I'm also the president of the Fort Worth Side Neighborhood Association, and we do support Serenos, and we want to see them succeed. We're very thankful to have their business in our neighborhood, although we cannot support packaged liquor sales on Park Avenue. There's already 3 places where you can buy packaged liquor between Woolworth and Leavenworth, and that seems quite a bit. And we've discussed this, and they understand our position. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we've got what appears to be a restaurant that you have there. I've been there, and I think your food's great. In fact, I think the neighborhood had one of their meetings at your place not too long ago that I attended. And it appears to me that people I've spoken to don't have a problem if you have a Class I license, which would allow you the on-sale, on-the-premises sale and consumption. But to have a package location there after all the work that's been done to rehabilitate that area, it's just too much concern at this point with this kind of fragile transition period to go into a package location. So I would be willing to support you if you were going to be willing to amend to a Class I. But if you're not willing to do that at this point, I don't think I could vote for the C.
Honestly, we will go for a Class I liquor license. We put that there on the table, or put that there just for future possibilities for us for on the table. That's why we applied for the Class C.
Can we just agree not to serve on that packaged liquor? Can we just?
I wouldn't be comfortable with that at this time. I think what we should do is go with the I, and there's so much more work to be done in that neighborhood. And it's not a week goes by that a developer, one of whom was here today, was my most recent tour in that neighborhood to try to do even more good things. And just to the west of your location on Pacific, that burned out ruins of a place on Pacific just got torn down. So there's a lot of people really working to do good things, and they want to keep the momentum going. And I just really reluctant myself to go along with a C at this time. So you would agree to amend to an I?
Yes.
Okay, I move to amend.
Second.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
So on the amendment, Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
As amended. Second.
I'd like to thank them for your willingness to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's adopted as amended 7-0. Item number 17, Dudley's Pizza and Tavern, 2110 South 67th Street, Suite 108, Class C liquor license application, new location.
Public hearing on item number 17 is today. Proponents, please. Mr. Kelly.
Well, thanks, Mr. President, members of the council. Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific. I'm appearing here with Mr. Robert Malm, who's also one of the owners, if you have any questions for him. This is just what it sounds like. It's a pizza place and restaurant with an emphasis on craft beers.
Thank you.
Which they're going to sell. That's why they have asked for packages.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion approved.
Second. Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. And Mr. President.
Yes.
And Jerem passed the second time for potential conflict of interest is adopted 601 passing. Item number 18, Brushy's 721 North 132nd Street, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on item number 18 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponent?
Here he
Oh,
comes.
here he comes.
Hi, I'm Paul Grantrala, 721 North 132nd Street. And this is going to be actually it's not a new restaurant, actually, it's an old one, makes new. I had that location 24 years ago, and I'm just coming back and reopen it again.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 19, the Android Factory, 2408 South 120th Street, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on item number 19 is today. Are there any proponents?
Blair Maurer, 9427 Heimbach Circle.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. Item number 20, Choo Choo's Bar and Grill, 14240 U Street, Class I liquor license, new application, no location.
Public hearing on item number 20 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, Claude Areta, 5214 South 156th Court.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 21, Halo Ultra Lounge, 17525 Gold, Class I liquor license, new application, no location, change of stockholders.
Public hearing on item number 21 is today. Are there any proponents?
Mr. President, members of the council, again, Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific. Sitting here with Mr. McGuire, who is now the sole owner. The prior ownership is all gone now. One person due to tragedy, but that is, he's taken it over, so, and he's been running it for the last several months. He's in an attempt to sell it, however. But we would ask, again, it's the same corporation and same business plan as of now. We're here for any questions if you need them.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved. Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
Jerem passes second time for potential conflict of interest is adopted 6-0-1 passing. Item number 22, Pizza Hut at 4925 L Street. Request permission to appoint Laureen Ventura manager. Ventura.
Public hearing on item number 22 is today. Proponents, please.
My name is Lorraine Ventura. I'm the restaurant store manager at 4925 L Street.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents?
Second.
Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved 7-0.
Thanks.
Item number 23 is Sullivan Steakhouse, 222 South 15th Street. Request permission to appoint Bob Keller manager.
Public hearing on item number 23 is today. Proponents, please.
Bob Keller, 19031 R Street, Omaha.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 7-0.
Thanks.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on consent agenda to be removed. Items removed consent agenda shall be taken up by City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they are removed, unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 24 through 26 were held on December 10th.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
They're all passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items number 27 through 37 and 39 through 44 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Jerem.
38.
Yeah, first of all, I'm surprised number 36 was going to fly by without any comment from the President, given how important it is. And I'm sure maybe the motion just came so quickly that you beat us to the punch. Yeah. But 36 is a very important item, and it's the study that will be used to evaluate the economics of redevelopment at the crossroads, and that is an immensely important retail corridor of the city. And I hope as a part of this economic study there can be inclusion of the neighborhoods. In particular, it's the three corners of Dr. Thompson's district, my district, Councilman Festerson, the President's district, and at least on the southeast corner there's the Elmwood Park neighborhood, and they're keenly interested in that since they view that as a part of their own neighborhood there. So can't wait to see what the results are and to get that going here.
Thank you. Is there a motion and a second?
There's a motion. I'll go through the second.
There we go. Motion and a second. Roll call.
So that's item 27 through 37, 39 through 44. Milton. Yes. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
They're all adopted 7-0. Now, item 38 is resolution that the mayor is authorized to sign the attached addendum to the consulting services agreement to extend the contract between the city and Silverstone Group for services relating to human resources functions. We have a request to lay this over 3 weeks to January 7th, 2014, and continue the public hearing.
So moved.
Roll call.
Milton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Thompson's out of the chambers. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Laid over 3 weeks, 6-0. We'll take up item number 62 on the addendum, which is an additional resolution. It's a resolution that the appointment by the mayor of Reagan Pence as a architect, planner, member of the Landmarks Heritage Preservation Commission is hereby confirmed.
Public hearing on item number 62 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Mr. Thompson back in the chambers. Milton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Thompson. Yes. Gurnett. Yes. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Ordinance on final reading, item number 45, special ordinance levying special tax and assessment on lots and pieces of real estate within Benson Business Improvement District number 6875 to cover the cost of expenses of the Business Improvement District. We have an amendment.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Thompson. Yes. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton. Yes. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's passed as amended 7-0. Appeal rate bid rejections. We'll take items 46, 7, 8, and 9. They're all the same applicant with different projects. 46 is Stonebrook Roofing Incorporated appeals the rejection of their bid of November 20th for OPW 52527 SP Omaha Public Safety Training Center Administrative Building and Pump House Roof Replacement Project. And 47 is the Fire Support Building Roof Replacement Project. 48 is the K9 Roof Replacement Project, and 49 is the Fire Station number 63 Roof Project.
Public hearings on agenda items number 46 through 49 are today. Are there any proponents?
James Neal Ferry, 11414 West Center Road. We were here to appeal the rejection of our bids on the 3 bids that we were successful bidders. I have copies of notes of my presentation here if you'd like to look at those for your consideration.
Thank you for recognizing our request and taking the time today. Stonebrook originated in 2003. We opened an office in Omaha in 2013. The past year, we've got over $1.1 million with the Omaha Airport Authority, $1.7 million worth of work in the city, both private and commercial work. We've created nine new jobs in the city of Omaha. The rejection of our bid was due to the omission of the RC1 that was left out by our office. I'm reading down the points at the top here. Was left out because there was no notice given in the bid documents to include in the bid documents. Number 3, if approved, if our bids are approved, we would save the city $12,000. Number 4, we've submitted prior bids in September, our first bids of the city, and there was no notice given at that time of the rejection of our bids. Our appeal considerations are, number 1, since the RC1 became a requirement for bids in February of 2012, the notice of bidders documents have not been updated to include it, nor has the table of contents or the proposal forms. All forms were last revised in June of 2010. Number 2, our notice to bidders does not mention the RC1 in any manner for requirement of bidding. Number 3, the table of contents highlights in bold that all boxes text that all P pages must be filled out completely when submitting the bid. There's no mention of RC1 at all in the bid documents. Number 4, RC1 is not identified or requested or tabulated with the published bid tabulations on the City of Omaha website, thus it does not appear to be identified at the time of the bid openings. It is a requirement if it was a requirement, we would request that going forward, as it would be checked off the same as addendums, bid securities, as to clarify the time of the opening, whether and all bidders are compliant with the bidding documents. Finally, number 5, in review of the bid documents, there's no reference in compliance to OMC 10-108A except the compliance with the contract, not the bidding documents. RC1 is amendment to OCM 10 as of February 2012. As your documents say, you reserve the right to irregularities in the bids, and it's our request that this should be ruled as an irregularity.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? If your remarks are complete.
Pardon me?
Are your remarks complete? Are you finished with your remarks? I don't want to cut you off if you want
to. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Heather Tippy Pierce, Public Works. I just wanted to bring forward to the council that these rejections are consistent with previous rejections that have been heard by the council and are consistent with the Omaha Municipal Code itself. As listed on the RC1 form itself within the contract book, it specifically designates that the form must be completed at the time of bid in order for the bid to be considered. Furthermore, with bidding procedures, the bid opening committee only deems a bid respondent on surface. It is then referred to the department itself for further review to make sure that the bid is compliant with the specifications. So a determination on the RC1 is never made at bid opening. That's not the bid opening committee's job. That's our job, and that's what we've done today. As to the last point that the gentleman from Stonebrook mentioned, that the city reserves right to waive irregularities, that is true. But at this point, we do not consider the RC1 form as an irregularity due to the requirement being specifically stated in the municipal code. Of course, if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but do note as consideration that all of the bids that are being appealed here were several 100% over the engineer's estimate and are subject to be rebid at this point. So it's just a consideration to be aware of, and one that the bidder was made aware of in several of the bid rejection letters. So if you have any other questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Close public hearing. Mr. Pauls.
Yes, you come up to the mic? I think you have the piece of paper that was handed to us.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
And I'm just curious, and maybe it's for my own learning curve. the suggestions on to be considered. What do you think of those?
Heather Tippy Pierce, Public Works. The contract documents that we use for the letting of these re-roofing projects, there were 6 in total, is our standard document. The contract book in and of itself, in its entirety, was revised. I think its most recent revision was June of 2012. It's specifically the proposal pages that have not been updated, but the book itself has been, and each different section is delineated. So it's not 100% accurate that the contract book hasn't been looked at since 2010. The way the book is laid out, it's laid out in 4 sections. A P section, a C section, B section, A section. And that's very logically thought out so that we have the proposal, the contract, the bonds, and the exhibits. And all of the exhibits, including the SEB, the contract compliance certification, the RC1, and various other code requirements are all self-contained in that Exhibit A section. The instruction to bidders actually does designate that a responsive bidder should familiarize themselves with the entirety of the contract book. And we believe that our successful bidders have done that and have been deemed respondent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Heather, one more time.
Just hang out.
Just hang out there. Did I hear you say we're going to rebid this whole thing?
Heather Tippy Pierce, Public Works. It is a consideration. The engineer's estimates on these 6, there were 6 re-roofing contracts, were provided by our insurance adjusters. All of the bids on those came in between 150 to 300% above estimate. So though there were some respondent bidders in that group of 6 contracts, we're working with our insurance company and may have to rebid them all or several of them, depending on what the new estimates come back at.
When will you make that decision?
Our facilities team is looking and working with our insurance company at this time. We know for sure that OPW 52528, which is one of the ones being appealed, and 52529, both will be rebid for sure. But the other 4 we're looking at with our facilities management group.
Okay, and then one more question.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to clarity of what the criteria are,
sure.
Is there a place online where it jumps out at you and it says, do this or your bid won't be successful, or do they have to dig for it to find it?
I wouldn't say that they'd have to dig for it. It's with the electronic document distribution, it's not as obvious as when we were stapling bright red sheets to the front cover of the contract documents. However, if you are familiar, if you take the time to familiarize yourself with the contract documents, both that, the SEB information, and other information becomes very apparent that they are required at the time of bid. We can always look for abilities to improve that, and we certainly can take some of these suggestions under advisement and work with our electronic distributor to look at potentially more methodologies of reminding people about these things. But we do feel that they are pretty clearly delineated in the contract documents, if you're familiar with all of them.
So you're willing, going forth, to take a look at that?
We can absolutely take a look at that.
Because a lot of times when we're doing things for, let's say, our renewal of our health care coverage here, when you miss a box or something, it'll give you a little warning, and it says, go back and check what you missed. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
If we were in a situation to actually bid these documents electronically, we could absolutely do this. At this point, we are only distributing the documents electronically. So it is still on the contractor to make sure that they have taken a look at everything in that download packet and familiarize themselves with it.
But just editorial-wise, I think the efforts that we're trying to do for small and emerging businesses, it's the betterment of society, not necessarily to trick people or to try to weed people out. I don't think we're in the business of weeding people out.
I would agree with that, Councilmember Thompson, and I don't think that this was in any way set up to be tricky. It's one of the reasons why we very clearly compartmentalized the different sections of the contract documents, so that all of these things are contained and can be dealt with in pieces.
And in no way am I saying that you're doing that or that you meant to do that, but as an educator, every semester I have to re-edit my final exam, and I've been editing that thing for like 20 years, and then the 21st time I still find things wrong with it. So it's just a normal process of trying to improve. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gurnant.
Heather, I could have let you get all the way back over there.
You could have.
Is there anything that impedes a contractor or stops a contractor or throws up an obstacle for a contractor to contact Public Works and get information or clarification of anything regarding putting a bid together?
Heather Tippie, Pierce Public Works. No, there's not. There's several different methodologies that contractors can contact us regarding questions on the bidding documents. And actually, with our electronic distribution software, we've actually been able to lengthen the window for which we can receive questions, comments, and concerns from contractors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
So you stated that previously when it went out in paper form, you put a big red sheet on the front. I assume that red sheet was that form, or a notice that they had to fill out that form?
Heather Tippie, Pierce Public Works. In an effort when early in 2012 to let contractors know about the new RC1 requirements and also to remind them about the small and emerging small business requirements, we did a little half sheet of paper. It was just basically a notice to contractors to look at those sections, that there were requirements, that they were new. As time has progressed and contractors have become more familiar with those requirements, we started tapering off that. But that was an effort that we did do to try and inform the public about new requirements that were inserted into the contract books.
And so now you don't do that anymore. So because it's electronic, now there's no notice to bidders anymore.
There is a notice to bidders as a part of the standard contract documents that does remind contractors to familiarize themselves with the entire book. And the book on these was not onerous, is roughly in the neighborhood of 75 to 100 pages. This wasn't a very thick or very detailed contract book. But as far as electronic distribution, doesn't allow us to staple a bright red sheet or put a bright red notice on anything. So that is a little bit different. However, that was done in an effort to bring attention to new requirements, and these aren't new requirements anymore.
And so this is contained, where does it mention the RC? It's somewhere in that booklet, that 100-page booklet, the RC1?
Yes. The entire form itself is in the contract documents.
How many new or newer bidders, contractors that are fairly new, how many of those do you reject? Because of this RC1 form?
That would, to get you specific numbers, I'd have to kind of go back through our bids for the last couple of years. In the last few years, we've bid somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 and 200 contracts, and we've issued maybe 25 to 30 rejections, a portion of which are on the RC1 form. And not all of those were new contractors. Some of them were, they got a new clerk who missed the page, or they just simply forgot to fill out a section of it, and so therefore they submitted it incomplete. There's a number of reasons and ways that a bid could be non-respondent, but new bidders getting rejected on the RC1, it's not uncommon, but it's also not uncommon for new bidders to submit correctly. And on these bid documents, on these re-roofing projects, we did have successful respondent bidders.
And this particular bidder Did Stonebrook Roofing bid on all 6 projects?
Yes.
And they're only appealing 4. Can I assume that 2 of the projects they actually included the RC1 form?
No, they're appealing 4 because they were the low bidder on those 4. The other 2, they were simply sent a courtesy notice because they were not the low bidder. So they were not respondent on all 6 bids.
Okay. And do you have any kind of checklist that goes out for them to check off what's necessary, or is that something they just kind of need to put together themselves when they do bids?
In this contract template, we don't. This is our city standard template. For our CSO or more involved contracts that have qualification statements and a number of other things, we've been working with new language to kind of test out a checklist and see how that's been going with mixed results. So that, as to Councilmember Thompson's point, we're always open to new ideas and to try new things out. But at this point, we have not changed our standard template since I think we updated some legalese in June of 2012.
And what does the RC1 form, what information is actually contained in that form?
The RC1 form is it's basically a form that represents a checklist listed in the Omaha Municipal Code in section 10-108, I believe it is. It is the contractor's representations that they are, they can legally do business in the state of Nebraska, that they have not had more than 3 major OSHA violations in the last 3 years, I think. Various certifications regarding their tax status, and things along those lines. Basically, that they are being a responsible contractor.
So without that form, we could have contractors or roofers bidding on projects that they really shouldn't be working on? Is that because maybe they're not complying with OSHA standards or
potentially?
the like?
I think that that may have been one of the rationales behind the development of the form.
And have you ever had any? Have you ever denied any contractors their bid or turned them down and then allowed them to file the RC1 form later?
No.
You've rejected everyone that doesn't have the RC1 form.
Once we get contracts referred from the bid opening committee and they've determined them as respondent on face, we check 2 things. We check that the tabulation is complete, and we check that all of the required documentation is submitted before it even goes to the divisions for engineering review. So if those forms are not included, that's one of the first things we check for, and we reject them immediately because that is what is stated in the Omaha Municipal Code.
And if the time was still open for them to submit a bid, if they got rejected, could they resubmit it?
Only if we rebid the entire contract.
Okay.
The municipal code is very straightforward. It specifically uses the language must be submitted at the time of bid. And that language is directly reiterated on the form itself.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Mr. Jerem.
Yeah, as the person who introduced the RC1 ordinance, it's basically 4 minimal assurances that the citizens of Omaha have that the contractors that the city does business with are representative. The first one is basically it says they only employ individuals who are either U.S. citizens or lawfully authorized to perform employment in the U.S., and they have E-Verify to do that, or the SAVE. The second area says that they don't misclassify employees under Nebraska's Employee Classification Act or the Fair Labor Standards Act of Nebraska, that they represent affirmatively that they comply with those laws. The third is that they pay their taxes, that they don't have any liens or other things of enforcement actions by the Internal Revenue Service against the company. And fourth is, within the time period that Ms. Tippy Pierce said, they don't have any willful or intentional OSHA violations. And so with those 4 things, the citizens of Omaha have this basically comfort, peace of mind to know that the city doesn't do business with unscrupulous companies or people who don't play by the rules and therefore get an advantage. Because companies who misclassify employees, don't insure them, don't pay work comp, don't pay health insurance, don't pay taxes or withholding, and therefore they have a very much lower cost of business than those who do play by the rules. And those who have intentional or willful OSHA violations are basically companies that don't provide safety protection to their employees and therefore have a very high incidence rate of people getting hurt on the job. The taxes obviously speak for themselves, and the employing citizens who are lawfully authorized to work in the U.S. or who are U.S. citizens was important because we had Omahans who had a very painful experience at the construction of the convention center and arena who had to watch companies who were misclassifying contractors. They were employing people who weren't authorized to work in the U.S., who were illegal aliens. They weren't withholding any taxes, were subsequently sued in federal court, and either paid fines or did time or both. So that's where this came from. The difference between our ordinance and other cities that have adopted them is ours is basically pretty simple in terms of 4 basic assurances. The other cities that I had as working drafts in talking with the Associated General Contractors, with labor unions, representatives, with Hawkins Construction and others, they stop the opening of the bid. If you don't have the form when the bid's open, it doesn't get to her committee. They kick you out right there. You're not even considered. Here, it goes to Heather's committee, and then they run the comb through in terms of compliance. But if you read the book, you could see pretty clearly that it's supposed to be included. It's not as obvious as conspicuous when they were doing the paper form with the red half-page cover sheet, but it is in there, and it's something that the other contractors obviously complied with. Now, in this case, there's probably 4 of these that will be rebid, I'm hearing, or up to 4.
Heather Tippy, Pierce Public Works. At this point, we are for sure rebidding 2, but potentially could be rebidding all 6.
So this contractor, assuming they can truthfully fill out RC1 the next time around, will have that opportunity. Otherwise, those who cannot truthfully fill this out are subject to fines, 10-year debarment from doing business with the city, and I don't know that we put time on it, but it's kind of the industry polices itself, and I would say there's probably been 4 that I can remember coming to the council who didn't have RC1s, but that's just my recollection. But I think it works. There's a purpose before it. We had a painful experience here in Omaha that kind of brought it to the surface in a very conspicuous way at what was then the Quest Center, and hopefully everyone can learn from it, and hopefully this business can do contracts with the city in the future.
Motion to deny the appeal. Second.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Milton? Yes. Pauls? Yes. Thompson? Yes. Gurnett? Yes. Gray? Yes. Jerem? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
Appeal is denied 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, third reading and public hearing on agenda item number 50 shall be held on January 7th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading on agenda items number 51 through 53 shall be held on January 7th. The public hearing on these items are today. Ordinance on second reading, 51. Ordinance declaring necessity appropriating property located at 6806 and 6808 South 26th Street for implementation of the Consolidated Submission Action Plan 2013.
Public hearing on item number 51 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 52, ordinance to approve a redevelopment tax and financing loan agreement with TREI Partners to implement the Mid-America Medical Office Tax and Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 7100 West Center Road. Proposes to demolish the existing structure and the new construction of a 6-story medical office building.
Public hearing on item number 52 is today. Proponents, Ms. Hadley.
Good afternoon. Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 53, ordinance to transfer unencumbered general fund appropriations 2014 budget from other budgetary accounts benefit retiree health insurance to Human Resources Department for the purpose of funding the non-personal services for a wellness program. We have a request to allow withdrawal of this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Withdrawn 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rules 7H. The third reading and public hearing agenda items number 54 through 55 shall be held on January 14th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H. Public hearing agenda items number 56 through 60 shall be held on January 7th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Gray. Jerem. Mr. President.
Thank you.
2:45. Happy New Year.
Have a good holiday.
Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year.